The trailer for episode 8 of The Penguin has been released online, and it gives us a look at what we are going to be getting with the final installment of this excellent Max series in Matt Reeves' The Batman saga. Episode 7 left things on a knife edge for Oz, with Sophia Falcone blowing up his operation in Crown Point, taking his mum hostage at Monroe's Jazz Club, and appearing to be in the process of taking Oz there too. However, based on what happened to Victor in the previous episode, and some of the footage we get in this new trailer, I do think there could be a way out for him. So in this video, I'm going to be giving you my breakdown for the Penguin episode 8 trailer, alongside my predictions and theories for the episode. The trailer will be linked in the description if you haven't seen it already. Before I get into it though, if you want to keep up to date on any of my future content surrounding the Penguin series, the Batman saga, and other upcoming DC projects, then don't forget to support this upload by giving it a like rating and subscribing to the channel. But without further ado, let's dive into my trailer breakdown for the Penguin episode 8. So the episode 8 trailer for The Penguin was released online following another brilliant episode that debuted the other day on Max. The trailer features scenes from episode 8, which is titled A Great or Little Thing, and it's going to be directed by Jennifer Getzinger, who has directed episodes for Westworld and Mad Men in the past. Now, the official episode 8 preview that Max released once again does not give us a whole lot of footage, and you can understand that because they don't want to give away any spoilers. But what we did get in the footage and what we've seen in previous Weeks Ahead trailers does give us certain hints at what might happen. We also have to keep in mind that this final episode will link directly into the Batman Part 2, so I think we're going to get some big events that set up the landscape of that highly anticipated Matt Reeves film. So with all that now noted, let's get into some of the things that were shown in the trailer for episode 8 and my theories on what might happen. Starting with a character we didn't see too much of last week, Victor Aguilar looks to be having more of a role in this upcoming episode. Now, we only get a few clips of him in the trailer, but what we did get suggests that his role is going to be important when it comes to Oz gaining some form of power. In the footage, we see Victor being escorted in a car, and then in a following shot, he is hit by someone from the gangs that Oz tried to assemble in episode 6. Now, something to note is that in the Weeks Ahead trailer from a month back, in this very same scene, Vic says to the gang leaders there that the whole world treats them as if they don't matter. So based on the knowledge of that, I think what we're seeing here is both Vic and the gang leaders arriving at the scene of the explosion from episode 7, and while the gang leaders are initially upset that Oz's drug operation has ended there, Vic will reinforce that their support is needed more than ever. I think he's going to tell them that if they help Oz as they promised, then they can defeat Sophia, and Gotham will be back in their hands. So if this does happen, Vic is going to have a massive role in helping save Oz, and with the gang's combined strength, they can defeat Sophia and her men. And the clip of him being escorted away in a convoy of cars, to me, looks like the gang's preparing to go with Vic into that battle. Coming to my next theory, this is actually something that I predicted last week, and something that I think will happen in this upcoming episode instead. I said in last week's trailer breakdown that I think Sophia will kill Oz's mum Frances in the aim to cause him real pain. Now yes, there's a chance Frances survives this episode and Oz somehow manages to get his mum to safety, but other footage in the episode 8 trailer makes me think that they are going to follow through with the death of Frances, and that's because we get a lot of clips of a young Oz talking to his mother at Monroe's Jazz Club. He says to her in that flashback footage that he's going to take care of her, and that if she doesn't believe he'll do anything for her, then it doesn't matter because he is going to prove it to her. Having even more flashbacks to this time period and focusing again on Oz's relationship with his mother makes me think that this is going to be the emotional pull of this final episode. Again, she asked Oz in episode 6 that if her dementia got worse, then he should kill her. And with the writers making that a clear narrative point, I think we're going to see the death of Francis in this episode. In that sense, Sophia will cause Oz real pain, but I think that pain will also result in Penguin winning the crime war against her later. And staying on this point with Francis, I think Julian Rush's therapy treatment on her last week has resulted in Sophia learning of the death of Oz's brothers, and I think at some point in this episode, Oz will come clean to his mum about what actually happened. So I think there's going to be multiple angles to this pain that Sophia uses to her advantage against Oz. But as I said, I think that will eventually backfire for her in the end, and Oz will use it as motivation to fully take up the mantle of the Penguin. I predict that Sophia will ultimately lose this fight, and linking it back to what I said about the footage of Vic, I think that will be carried out through the help of those other gangs from episode 6. Beyond their initial points of confrontation though, we do further see in this footage that Sophia is going to be sporting a new red dress in later scenes and being involved in a shootout inside Monroe's jazz club in the present day. This footage further builds on a gunfight we saw in previous Weeks Ahead trailers where Penguin and Sophia are both involved in that shootout. So as a whole, having this multi-timeline approach in the final episode, with scenes between a young Oz and his mother at Monroe's, and then the confrontation between Penguin and Sophia in that same club decades later, looks to be setting up a clear emotional focus. And that's why I think the episode will use the death of Francis to propel Oz to victory against Sophia Falcone and show the completion of his transformation into the Penguin. Moving on, while I believe that the Penguin will win this fight using physical power, I also think that the trailer is showing Oz gaining political power too. We see him using a gavel in a courtroom just above the name label that reads Bella Royale, and then we also see him later shooting at someone unknown. Now, if we go back to the Batman, Carmine Falcone's grip on power was something that became more complex than we expected. We learned that the ex-Kingpin had powerful people working for him all over the city, both within the GCPD and also the political sphere too. Those individuals were seen at the club below the Iceberg Lounge, and it really showed how deep Carmine's grip on power was. Now, if the Penguin is going to gain power and become that new Kingpin, he's going to have to get a grip on more powerful individuals in the city too. He can't just rely on physical power through the gangs to keep his control after dealing with Sophia. And not to forget, in episode 6 we did see him confront a councilman at City Hall, getting him to restore power to Crown Point. So he's already demonstrated that he can use his skills to get someone in a position of political power to do what he wants. And I think that's going to escalate in episode 8 with him making a big move against the political power system in Gotham to get some favour from those within it. I wouldn't be surprised if we did get a cameo from Bella Royale in this episode, as her name tag is in that court we see Penguin in, and I wouldn't be surprised if the unknown person Oz kills is a political figure who is trying to put a tighter grip on Gotham's criminal underworld. By killing this person and getting their opponent to say the right things in court, Oz might be able to gain the time he needs to establish his empire and start to sway powerful figures in the city to work with him, like those who did with Carmine in the past. We'll have to see how this all goes down, but I will say that I'm really fascinated to see what is going on here, as I think it will have big consequences for the Batman Part 2. And finally, this brings me on to my predictions for the ending scenes of this brilliant show. Now, as I said at the start, it's no secret that Matt Reeves and the showrunners have been saying that the Penguin is going to lead directly into the Batman 2, and its ending is going to be pivotal to that. And this makes me think more broadly about how this show can end and how they might handle Oz going into that project. Now, as you can guess from the other things I've talked about in this breakdown, I'm heavily suggesting that Oz will become that next Kingpin of Gotham, and that he will win his war with Sophia. But what I also think is that a lot of us aren't exactly ready for how big that power grip will be. The reason I say this is because I believe that the Penguin will actually be one of the main villains of that next film, and not just a side villain that has 5 or 10 minutes of screen time. I think it's no coincidence that Penguin has had his own well-developed show, and with him becoming Kingpin, I think Reeves will want to use that new position of power for him as a big narrative point in the next film. I think they are going to show how the political system is now completely divided, and villains in Gotham are using that to their advantage, and I think in that second film, crime and drugs on the streets of the city are going to be an overwhelming problem for Batman himself. So establishing the level of Oz's power, or the direction that power is going in, is what I think is going to be the big talking point of this final episode. By showing Oz win this war against Sophia with both a physical might and a greater momentum politically, I think we'll understand the threat that he poses on the streets of Gotham going forwards. Towards the end of the episode, I think he will kill Sophia Falcone to solidify that strength, following the death of his mother of course, and then I think at the very end, he'll begin to refurbish the Iceberg Lounge into his own twisted version of control. We know that in the comics, this location becomes his base of power, so I expect that by the end of this series, and going into the Batman 2, that the Penguin will look to reopen and run his operations from a more secure and renewed Iceberg Lounge. Maybe we get more of an icier or whiter colour theme in its reconstruction, and something that looks more wintry than what we got in the first Batman movie. And speaking of winter, I think we'll see that fully arrive in Gotham, having had hints of it already. With the winter season now in play, the show can communicate the frozen state of Gotham metaphorically, a city that doesn't know how to move forward, with an influx in crime and a new criminal leader ready to leave his mark. But that was my video breaking down the trailer promo for The Penguin Episode 8. I will be covering the final episode in multiple videos here on the channel, so stay tuned for more on the Batman series. But if you've seen the trailer for Episode 8, let me know down below in the comment section what you thought of the new footage, and what you think might happen in the final episode. For much more videos and news on the Batman universe and DC, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like, rating, and follow me on social media via the links in the description. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.